Hi, my name is Allison. I'm so glad to meet with you today. I just wanted to know what your name is before
Hi,
we.
my name is John.
Nice to meet you, John. I'm glad you came in to see me today. Um, Before we get into anything, I just wanted to know if you could discuss your gender, age, ethnicity, and some physical characteristics for me. Like, how do you.
Um, I'm a 33-year-old male. Um, I'm Caucasian. I feel like for the most part, like my physical health is pretty good. Um, yeah. Is there anything else you're looking for?
Um, I think that pretty much narrows that down. I
Okay.
wanted to talk about your family. Like, do you have your siblings? Do you have a mom and a dad? Like, what's your kind of overall background?
Okay. My mom and dad are still alive. I grew
Okay.
up living with both of them. They're still married.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have three older brothers. I'm the youngest out of the four of us. And I'm currently married. I've been married for the last 2 years, and I've never been married before. This is my first marriage, never been divorced. I have no kids as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my grandparents are also still alive, but my grandpa's been sick. He has dementia, and my grandma doesn't have the best physical health, uh, but we're a pretty good family, close knit family. My mom does struggle with some mental health. She has a lot of anxiety. She's never been able to hold a job or anything, so she's was home a lot during my childhood. She was kind of like the primary, you know, caregiver. But my dad, he worked all the time because he was like the sole income in our house.
I don't know. I just want to make sure I didn't catch it, didn't miss anything. You said you did you have any siblings or
Yeah, I have three older brothers. I'm the youngest out of the four of us.
um is there any other thing that you wanted to discuss about your family or anything that you.
Mm, I feel like my wife's been really mad at me lately, and that's why I decided to come in. She's been really upset with me. Um,
Mhm.
and I feel like I'm starting to show like some things that my mom did growing up, like just how she worries all the time. I feel like I'm starting to get that way.
Mhm. I understand. Thank you so much for opening about that up to me, and I understand it might be hard to talk about, but thank you for opening up about that.
Mhm.
Uh, Next, I wanted to discuss about um, the where you grew up, the impact of your overall cultural and ethnic background on your own values. Like, how did the way you grew up, how did the environment and I guess like the culture you grew up in affect your values today?
Okay. I grew up in um kind of like a poor household. Like I said, my dad was the only income and my mom struggled a lot, to leave the house and things. And with, yes, four boys, you know, they did the best that they could. So I feel like I want to do the same thing. I want to be able to provide for my family, and I haven't been able to so far. Um, I kind of feel like I'm supposed to be the man of the house, and I have kind of failed my wife on that.
Mm-hmm.
But we grew up in like a smaller town, um, just quiet, small town. I'm definitely not meant for the city. um, but yeah, that's about how I grew up.
Next, I kind of wanted to discuss, if you don't mind, some significant life events.
Hmm.
Are there any major significant life events that, like marriage? I know you talked about that you were married. Anything like um, significant in your life that has affected you?
Okay. So I did get married 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, that was my, like I said, my only marriage, my first marriage. So that was important to me. I haven't had a lot of loss in my life. Um, So that's good. I haven't had a lot of grief or anything. Like, no, like my grandparents are still alive. My parents are still alive. You know, I still have my brothers. Um, I feel like my parents did the best growing up. So I wasn't like ever abused and they tried to meet my needs the best they could. Like I said, sometimes we went without because, you know, we only had one income, but we made the best out of it.
So what I'm hearing is, you had your overall how you grew up and your marriage are some significant events that you kind of have influenced you overall throughout your life.
Yeah, I would say so.
Perfect. Um, so next, I wanted to discuss relationships that you had. You mentioned that you have relationships with you're married currently. And you mentioned that both your parents are alive and your grandparents are alive. I just wanted to discuss any kind of current, past or present relationships that you've had throughout your life. You can disclose and talk about how much or how little you want to.
Okay. So my wife and I have been together for probably 7 years. So, um, we got married, like I said, the last 2 years. She's been really my only serious relationship. Um, my brothers and I feel like the brother that's closest to my age, so the third brother, is the one that I'm most closest to. And I just think it's just because, you know, we're closer in age.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, I only really see on like big holidays. My mom doesn't ever leave the house, so they never come over.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we always have to go and see them, but she stays at home most of the time. And like I said, they don't really like a lot of company. And my dad works all the time still. So, and
Mm-hmm.
my grandparents, they've been sick. My grandma, I can go see her, but it's, you know, whenever I have a chance to get over there. And I also don't like to leave the house much. I worry too much when I leave. And my
Mm-hmm.
grandpa, he's got dementia, so he's being taken care of and he doesn't really remember any of us. So it's kind of hard to go see him too. Um, I don't really have any close friends. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
much my wife's my only support besides my family.
Have you had any significant friendships in the past?
Not really. I'm kind of a loner.
Mm-hmm. So you've had so just so you're close with your wife,
Hmm.
uh, and you're close with your family at times, and
Hmm.
you go over and see your grandparents sometimes when you can.
Yeah, just when I can. I
Understand?
hate leaving the house though. I worry too much.
Yes. So it seems to me your anxiety kind of plays a bigger role into kind of how you kind of operate and like kind of how you move throughout your life. Um,
I feel like it pretty much controls everything.
I understand. But it's good that you're coming to get help, and it's good that you recognize that it's a big
Hmm.
place. Um, so next, I kind of wanted to discuss your overall like educational background. Where you worked. Is there any some hobbies that you're interested in volunteering? Any other interests that you have had not just currently but throughout your life?
When I was in high school and stuff, I was big into sports. My anxiety and stuff didn't really affect me until like my early 20s. But so in high school, it's a little bit more social, you know, with friends and stuff. But when I graduated from high school, I went to college and got my associate's degree, and I've been working in IT pretty much since then. I have
Mm-hmm.
not been able to keep a job though. I was working, but I recently just lost a job, and this is the third job I've lost in the last year. And I've
Mm-hmm.
been working as an IT specialist in all of them.
Are you working in person or remote?
It was in person. And I feel like it's not my fault I lost my job. I can't stand to be away from home. So I was absent a lot and late a lot. Um, I'm just really angry with myself and that they let me go and they weren't understanding.
So, you briefly touched about your vocational background. Did we touch on our educational background? Like, where did you go to? You said you went to high school. Did you happen to attend college or anything?
Yep, I got my associate's degree to be an IT specialist.
I just wanted to clarify. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Mhm.
Is there any hobbies that you wanted to discuss, or any
I used
fall?
to be big on the outdoors just because, I can do that kind of alone, like hiking and those things. Me and my wife would go a lot, but we haven't recently. She's been upset with me over losing my job.
Mhm. I understand. Are you currently looking for another job, or is it just kind of the last job that losing it kind of dampened your spirits, I guess?
It definitely dampened my spirits. That's why I figured I should get help. I'm just so mad that I keep getting fired. I feel like nobody understands.
I understand. So you're angry about losing your job, and right now that's kind of influencing or affecting your, not, I don't want to say affecting your ability, but you're kind of not wanting to look for another job because of your experiences in your past jobs before. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, I understand how you feel because that losing your job kind of back to back in three jobs, and it's kind of, it has to be a lot to deal with. So I understand about that. You mentioned briefly before your mom has mental health issues that she suffers from. You mentioned that
Mhm.
she anxiety. And we've briefly touched about your anxiety throughout the sessions. I also wanted to talk about, is there any other, medical or mental health disorders that we should be aware of, or did you wanted to discuss during the meeting presently today? Any other background, information that we can gather is incredibly important, and just so we have our overall bigger picture so I can better support you.
Yeah. So my dad doesn't really have much mental health.
Mm-hmm.
He drinks a little bit, like after work and stuff. He always has done that throughout my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like get blackout drunk or anything, but he drinks every day. But he doesn't seem to have any mental health. He's kind of closed off. Like I said, my mom, she never leaves the house. She worries a lot. She's never been able to keep a job. Um, and I think that like being in the house all the time kind of makes her depressed. Um, she kind of feels lonely, I think. So those are like the two big influences in my life. One of my brothers has PTSD because he was in the military, my oldest brother. Um, but my other brothers don't seem to have anything. They don't like, worry. They're able to keep a job. They don't seem to have, they're more like my dad. Um,
Is
and
your
then
I apologize for interrupting you.
you're okay.
Is your brother, you said your brother was diagnosed with PTSD?
Hmm.
Is he currently getting treatment for that?
Yeah, he's in therapy.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. But like I said, my other two brothers completely, normal. They don't seem to have any like
No,
issues. They're like my dad.
I understand.
Um, my grandpa has dementia and my
Mhm.
grandma, she's got like bad physical health, but neither of them really have much mental health. I feel like my grandpa was kind of like my dad too, would drink every day, but he was able to keep a job.
Does he so you mentioned that your grandfather has dementia.
Hmm.
Uh, he currently being is that currently being treated as well, or is that kind of, are they still living independently, I guess?
No, he's in like the later stages. He's living in an institution, like not an institution, but like a nursing home right now. He has somebody to take care of him every day.
Um Is there any other medical or mental disorders in your past, present, family history that has been of relevance to you and you think would be important for me to know as your therapist?
I don't think so right now. Like I said, my anxiety started in the early 20s and I just feel like, well, feeling like I have anxiety, all I do is worry, and I just feel like it's getting worse the older I get, and now it's really affecting my life. Like I can't keep a job, my wife is mad at me, I'm afraid she's eventually going to leave me. It's just, I'm really worried that my worrying is going to ruin my life even more.
Do you think your anxiety also sets off some anger within you as well? Do you think that kind
Yeah.
of each other as well?
Yeah, I can't ever relax. I'm always angry and on edge, and if I leave for work on time, I feel like I have to turn back around and make sure things are unplugged and like, that the lights are off and that my wife made it out of the house safe. I worry so much about every little thing, stuff that I don't even need to worry about.
I understand. It seems to be very overwhelming, but again, I'm glad that we're getting support, we're getting help, and it's good that you were moving through it.
Yeah.
Um, so you mentioned, you have anxiety, we're going through some issues with your job situation, you seem to have some, there is some, I don't want to say problems, but you and your wife have some um, underlying issues to discuss about like overall job, or her overall, I guess, resentments or disagreements overall, you being able to keep a job. In terms of your overall symptoms for anxiety and just your mental health symptoms, you mentioned that they started in your early 20s. Is there any, in terms of your overall anxiety, what age were you when that started? Because you mentioned previously in the session, you mentioned that you used to really love, being outside, you like to do outdoor stuff because you like to um, kind of be by yourself and be outside. Um, but now it seems you have trouble even going outside. So when did that kind of anxiety kind of take over, I guess?
I started worrying about things when I was like 24, but I think that like the last, like once I hit 30, I feel like my anxiety kind of like took off. Like it became kind of like I couldn't function like on normal days. Like my mind just races all the time. I don't sleep well. I can't do those normal everyday things that I used to love doing. So I feel like it's been really bad like the last 3 years. But I started seeing signs of it when I was like in my early 20s, probably like 24.
So it started, so the symptoms, so it would be correct for me to say that the symptoms started when you were 24, but it didn't really start getting worse or, progressing until it was after 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I think, it's great that you are acknowledging, and you're aware of your symptoms and, kind of where it began, and you have a self-awareness of, your overall mental health status, and, kind of issues and areas you got to work on. So I think that's the first step in everything. So I think
Hmm.
I really want to thank you for coming in today. And I just think it's great that how open and honest and just available you are in terms of talking about everything. I think it's a great step. Before I conclude the meeting today, I just wanted to firstly ask, is there anything that you wanted to disclose to me that you think could be relevant for our meetings together? Or do you think that I have touched on everything that that you feel is important?
I think we touched on everything that's important.
Yeah, of course. I will be reaching out to you to be setting up another meeting. But thank
Okay.
you for meeting with me today.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Bye.
Bye.